In the heart of Seattle, an old residential building conceals a mystery that few dare to speak about openly. Within its walls, the name Parkside Heights lingers in whispered conversations and furtive glances, all thanks to a peculiar elevator. Some dismiss it as mere coincidence or an outdated mechanical quirk, but everyone who lives, or tries to live, there quickly realizes that something very strange happens whenever anyone attempts to reach the third floor. Strangely, the elevator simply skips the number 3, moving directly to the 4th, no matter who's inside or what time it is. New residents often laugh off this oddity at first, but their amusement swiftly turns into unease as unsettling stories start to circulate. Tales of people who, by insistence or accident, ended up stranded between floors and were never quite the same again. Behind the elevator's chilly steel doors hides a past rarely acknowledged and always denied by the building's management. Sarah, a young attorney recently transferred to Seattle, found herself intrigued by the building's reputation when she moved into her 6th-floor apartment. Still adjusting to the city, she quickly noticed the tense atmosphere in the halls, especially on rainy nights when the lights flickered for no apparent reason. The neighbors, though polite, kept conversations short and skillfully steered away from the topic of the elevator. Only the weary-eyed janitor Michael was willing to speak in hushed tones about old stories, always interrupted by the sound of the elevator ascending empty in the middle of the night. For Sarah, with her love of challenges and courtroom puzzles, this strange puzzle became a personal mission. She was determined to learn what made the simple act of pressing 3 so terrifying. It didn't take long before she discovered unsettling reports in the city's archives and yellowed newspaper clippings. Once, in 1998, a renter named Andrew vanished without a trace after complaining about whispering voices between the 2nd and 3rd floors. In another incident from the 1980s, a child was found unconscious inside the elevator, clutching an old metal key marked with the number 3. These stories, always poorly documented and shrouded in conflicting versions, created an aura of superstition that was hard to ignore. Some believed the 3rd floor once bore witness to something truly terrible. Others dismissed it all as an urban legend. But for Sarah, there was only one way to find the truth: by daring the elevator to stop where it was never meant to. Sarah spent her first week at Parkside Heights adjusting to the patterns of city life. Gradually, she noticed a quiet routine among the residents. Most kept their heads down in the hallways and rarely used the elevator outside of business hours. Any questions Sarah asked about strange noises coming from the elevator shaft at night were met with nervous smiles and vague replies. The elevator itself, a relic of darkened metal, groaned with a disturbing persistence and seemed resistant whenever the number 3 button was pressed. Yet Sarah wasn't the kind to be easily intimidated. If anything, her curiosity only grew in the face of the collective silence that surrounded the building's biggest secret. One night, after a long day at work, Sarah decided to test it for herself. She stepped into the elevator with 2 bags of groceries, catching her tired reflection in the polished steel walls. Alone, she pressed the buttons, first the 3rd, then the 6th floor. To her surprise, the 3rd floor light flickered for a second, buzzed softly, then went out, as if the elevator itself was rejecting her request. With a slight tremble, she felt her heartbeat quicken, but kept her finger firmly on the number 3, refusing to give in. The elevator continued upward, stopping at the 4th floor, as if nothing had happened. For a moment, a deeply unsettling feeling swept over her, as if she weren't alone. Sarah exited on the 6th floor, but she couldn't shake the uneasy sensation that followed her the rest of the night. Every step down the corridor felt as if the building itself was breathing, or as if someone watched her from the shadows. When she finally went to bed, curiosity had been replaced by a silent obsession. Why did no one want to talk about the 3rd floor? And what exactly happened to those who insisted on trying to reach it? She knew she would need more answers, even if it meant defying every silent warning the mysterious old building had to offer. Determined to go beyond whispers and rumors, Sarah began investigating the details that made the building so peculiar. She visited the municipal library in search search of old records and, after much digging, found a long-forgotten article from the 1970s. The report described a suspicious fire on the third floor of Parkside Heights, where an entire family vanished without a trace. Black and white photos showed exhausted firefighters and shaken residents. The incident, it seemed, was never fully explained, confirming to Sarah that something was hidden within those historic walls. The next night, armed with a flashlight and her resolve, she returned to the elevator, determined to document everything on her phone. This time, it was nearly midnight when she pressed the button for the third floor. The elevator groaned louder than usual, the lights began to flicker, and for a moment, the cabin seemed to stall between the second and third floor. Sarah tried to keep her composure, shining her flashlight into the corners for any sign beyond the cold steel. Suddenly, a chill swept through the elevator, leaving her unable to move. On the video she reviewed later, only shrill noises and an almost inaudible whisper could be heard. It lasted only seconds, but for Sarah, it felt like endless minutes. When the elevator finally resumed movement, her breath was quick and shaky, barely able to illuminate the buttons, all of which glowed inexplicably. The elevator stopped, not at the third, but between floors, and the doors remained closed long enough for her to imagine she might never get out. The distortion of time and space was overwhelming, as if the building itself wanted to keep her trapped for challenging its oldest secret. When the doors at last opened, no one was waiting on the other side, and Sarah realized she was right back on the ground floor, as if nothing had happened. The strange experience wasn't enough to scare Sarah away from her investigation. On the contrary, it made her even more determined to uncover the truth behind the sinister mystery. In the days that followed, she tried again to talk with Michael, the janitor. This time, he invited her into the small maintenance room and shared fragments of the building's history, old tales from residents who claimed to hear footsteps and children's laughter coming from the non-existent third floor, especially during storms. Michael, his eyes welling with tears, revealed that after the fire the floor was sealed, but the engineers had never been able to explain why the elevator refused to stop there, even during manual tests. Sarah sensed that Michael's fear was real, though she also caught a glimpse of guilt in his gaze, as if he knew more than he was letting on. She returned to the elevator by daylight, trying the number 3 button once more. To her shock, as the elevator began to ascend, the lights suddenly went out and the control panel shut down, plunging the cabin into a cold darkness. The mirror on the wall, until then nothing unusual, grew misty and reflected distorted shapes, as though other people were trapped in its depth. Trembling, Sarah closed her eyes and clung to the hope that it was all just the product of her tired imagination. Yet everything felt unnervingly real. When at last the lights returned and the panel lit up again, the button for the third floor flashed on its own, as if someone or something had managed to activate it from the other side of reality. The elevator halted with a jolt, but the doors didn't open immediately. Sarah then heard, right next to her ear, a child's voice whisper, "It's not safe here," followed by an oppressive silence. An overwhelming urge to escape overcame her, and just then, in a rush of sudden brightness, the doors finally opened, not onto the third floor, but the 6th, her original destination. Sarah stepped out, shaken, with the unmistakable feeling she had encountered something impossible to explain. From that day forward, Sarah knew her life would never be the same. What began as mere curiosity transformed into a blend of respect and fear for the unknown. The shadows of Parkside Heights never again seemed like simple tricks of the light. Every creak in the hallway reminded her that the building held secrets almost alive. Michael, whenever he passed her, greeted her with a knowing look, as if the two now shared an ancient bond. Even the neighbors, previously reserved, opened up a little, sharing their own strange accounts, though no one ever dared to speak of the third floor aloud. Sarah became known among the older residents as the brave one from the 6th floor. She made it a habit to avoid the elevator when possible, discreetly observing its behavior in hopes of spotting something normal. Often, late at night, she would hear the elevator moving on its own, stopping at random floors before standing still for long minutes. Despite the lingering fear, she felt something different, a strange sense of belonging to the building, as if Parkside Heights itself had begun to accept her for her fearless curiosity and determination to uncover the truth. Although she never managed to fully unravel the elevator's mystery, Sarah learned to appreciate the fine line between human curiosity and respect for what can't be explained. The building remained a stage for shy smiles, unsettling events, and stories whispered through Seattle's rainy nights. To Sarah and everyone at Parkside Heights, the lesson was clear. Some questions defy time and reason, and not all are meant or even supposed to be answered. The elevator, silent and stubborn with its number 3 button, stood as an ever-present invitation to the unknown, guarding its secrets on the 3rd floor. As the months passed, Sarah discovered that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, but to remind us of the limits of our own understanding. Parkside Heights, with its imposing architecture and echoing hallways, remained a silent witness to the experiences of all who walked its corridors. For every curious soul tempted to uncover the elevator's secret, there lingered the same feeling, an uneasy blend of wonder and humility in the face of the unexplained. Sarah chose to live her days with the lightness of someone who has seen something extraordinary, without needing to convince anyone else of what she found between the 2nd and 4th floors. Despite the lingering questions, she learned to embrace the routine, appreciating Seattle's rainy nights and the building's quiet hush. For her, the investigation became less about concrete answers and more about tuning in to the subtle energy of each space. She realized Parkside Heights was, above all, a place of stories, some told, others merely whispered behind ancient elevator doors. Michael, the neighbors, even those who once scoffed at the rumors, now looked at Sarah with a mix of respect and silent admiration. Life in the building went on, as mysterious as ever. There were still nights when Sarah walked the empty halls, chills running down her spine at the sound of distant whispers or the elevator moving alone. In those moments, she reflected on how the search for the unknown can change not just our perception of the world, but who we are as well. And if anyone ever asked whether she had uncovered the truth about the 3rd floor, all it took was a mysterious smile and a look full of possibilities, a silent invitation to curiosity and to the respect we owe the extraordinary things that lie just beyond our reach.